Well, I'm glad you're here. Yeah, I think that'll help. All right, Jim.
Sorry to bother you.
No, you didn't bother me at all. Okay. Thank you, Jim. Have a good day.
Good morning. I'm going to call to order this public meeting for the Arapahoe County Board of County Commissioners for April 16th, 2019. To my left is Ron Carl, the county attorney. To my far right is Jolene Sanchez, the assistant clerk to the board. Ms. Sanchez, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Conti?
Good morning.
Good morning. Commissioner Sharp?
Here.
Commissioner Holland?
Here.
Commissioner Jackson?
Here.
Commissioner Baker?
Here. Commissioner Holland, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please join me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Carl, are there any modifications to the agenda?
There are no modifications to the agenda.
The commissioners have had time to read the agenda and see the items. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Jackson, seconded by Commissioner Holland. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions or objections? Seeing none, that motion passes unanimously. This is the time that we've set aside to hear comments from citizens. Citizens are invited to speak to the commissioners on non-agenda items. If you're here to speak about our agenda items, we do have a public hearing this morning under general business. So if you're here to speak, we will call public comments at that time. But if you're here to speak to the board about anything that's not already on the agenda, there will be a 3-minute time limit per person. So if there's anyone here that would like to address the Board of County Commissioners at this time, please make yourself known to me. Seeing none, the public comment period is closed. Citizen comment period. We have one set of minutes to approve this morning from March 26th, 2019. And Commissioner Jackson, you were absent and excused for that. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns about those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Sharp, seconded by Commissioner Holland. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections or abstentions? Seeing none, that motion carries unanimously. We're on to the consent agenda. Are there any questions or comments about anything that's on our consent agenda today? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the consent agenda as published.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Holland, seconded by Commissioner Conti. All in favor? Aye. Any objections or abstentions? Seeing none, that motion carries unanimously. We have one general business item this morning. This is a public hearing. It's item number 7A. It is adoption of Building Code Appendix M addressing child daycare in residential homes. Our presenter will be Joe Richards, the Building Division Manager. And our attorney on this matter is Robert Hill, Senior Assistant County Attorney. Good morning, Mr. Hill. Would you please set the foundation for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a request from the Building Department to add Appendix M to the Arapahoe County Building Code. This request has been noticed as a public hearing and by publication in both the Villager and the I-70 Scout. The board has jurisdiction to proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hill. Good morning, Mr. Richards.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Board. Thank you for this opportunity to present Appendix M. It's been a long time coming. Thank you. You know, help I can get up here, apparently. If you wouldn't mind, I'd like to start with a brief presentation to kind of encapsulate everything we've talked about over the last several months. With your permission.
Please proceed.
Today's hearing, we're going to talk about the adoption of the Appendix M based on the 2015 IRC. That's the International Residential Code. The adopted Appendix M has two modifications to it. The maximum number of children being set as orchestrated with in conjunction with the state licensing program, and it will also require a third-party monitoring for smoke and carbon monoxide detection. That will be monitored, and if it was ever canceled or deleted for any reason, the county would be notified that they would be in violation of Appendix M. The county currently uses Group R3 of the 2015 IRC. The home daycare occupancy level is capped at 5. Above 5 requires a sprinkler system. County land use code limits use to 6 without a special use permit, and the state can issue permits for up to 12. A concern of the industry is not only in the county but other jurisdictions in the R3 group. The cost of sprinkling your home runs between $15,000 and $30,000. State taking over the building permits is opposed to local control would be an issue. We don't want the state coming in and taking over child daycare in our jurisdiction. That would lend to land use and planning and zoning issues that would not be favorable to us. The meeting held with Human Services, South Metro Fire, CCI, State, Colorado Children's Campaign, and other building officials. The other option I want to mention to here is that some daycare centers may go unlicensed and unknown because the regulations are in place. We need to determine when the sprinkler systems are needed without the compromise of safety. Requested state criteria was inspected, is understood as they review. We found that Appendix M in 2015 provides means for egress and smoke detection for R3 groups used for the same for home daycare of more than 5 children for less than 24 hours. Addresses exits. This will address exits, fence yards, safeguards on decks, locks, latches, and does not set an upper limit of occupancy. Our solution to that was to set upper limit before sprinklers were needed, 12 to align with the state, smoke and carbon monoxide detection monitored by a third party, supported by Human Services and the care providers. South Metro, I spoke to them on Saturday. They've withdrawn their support in that they will not oppose it, but is in conflict. They have not adopted the building codes as we have not adopted the fire code. So we work in great harmony with South Metro and other fire districts in the county. So they can't officially support it, but they told me that they would not oppose it. All right? So it would be our responsibility to monitor the system. Alternatives adopt Appendix M with other modifications. We can do nothing and not adopt Appendix M. The building division would continue using the building code to an R3 requirements, which would limit the occupancy to 5. Children before a sprinkler system would be required. The Public Works and Development recommends the adoption of Appendix M of the 2015 IRC as part of the county's building code, with the addition of limiting the occupancy of 12 children and third-party smoke and carbon monoxide detection. Acceptance of the resolution is presented in the staff report. Now I'm open for questions.
Commissioner Holman first.
Yes, my question, as I understand it, the inspection of these homes will be done by the state?
There are 2 inspections, Commissioner. One is done by the state for the issuance of the license. The second one is that the applicant would have to apply for a permit with the building division, and we would incorporate the articles of Appendix M in that inspection to make sure they're qualified.
Which includes all the life and safety issues that you've discussed.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sharp, then Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, Mr. Richards. Can you talk a little bit about 2 things, the egress in terms of what the county requires? As I understand, that's not changing from the state. This is just allowing more children in the home without a sprinkler system, correct?
Yes, Commissioner.
So in terms of egress, all of the things within the county still apply. They have to be able to get out of the home quickly and that kind of thing, that all of those building codes still apply?
Yes, Mr. Axter, they're a little more stringent with Appendix M. There will be 2 exits required for children to get out. In a residential home now, under the R3, there's only one. The front door is considered the exit.
Okay.
Under the Appendix M, there will be 2 exits required. And that was one of the reasons we put the monitored fire alarm and a smoke alarm system in, is that it would help get the children out more quickly.
Okay. And then can you tell me a little bit more about the fire department and their non-opposition? Did they approve the previous regulation that the county had, and they just have not adopted the state codes?
There's been a major disconnect between the state regulations and local building codes and fire codes. This is an attempt to try to marry those together in a little more regulated way. The challenge we have as a county is that we don't adopt the fire codes, so our cooperation with the fire districts in our jurisdiction are more voluntary and on an agreement basis. So we work in great harmony with those departments. However, they are, just like we were previous to Appendix M here, we were restricted to the letter of the law. If there's more than 5 children, then you have to have sprinklers, and this is the way it is. The fire district right now, under the fire code that they've just adopted the 2018 code, they're still under those restraints. But their comment to us was, because you're a county and because you are autonomous in your enforcement of Appendix M, we will not oppose that. So they won't come in and say, hey, you have 7 children here, you have to have fire sprinklers in the house, and cause an issue that way. They will just say it's up to Arapahoe County to monitor this situation.
So how, if I could, Mr. Chairman, how do we get in sync with the fire department and the state, for example? If we go to M here, we'll be in sync with the state, but the fire department will still have different regulations.
Without adopting the fire code, I don't know whether there's a path to do that. We'd have to adopt the fire code, they would have to adopt the building code, and we have to work out some kind of compromise. And I don't know what that would look like at this point. We decided to just go our separate ways, so to speak, and monitor it that way. This would allow these homes to exist. And other jurisdictions are looking at the same thing. They have an easier path with a jurisdiction of a city or a town or a county, because they do adopt the fire code, and there's a little more of a mutual benefit to each other to modify the codes for that particular jurisdiction. And we're so vast and so big that we cover more than one fire district. It would be a real difficult job to try to juggle all those, the 3 or 4 fire districts we have to deal with, and keep everything in sync. This is probably the cleaner, easier way to do it. Puts a little more onus on the county for implementation and monitoring, but again, the fire department doesn't oppose that.
If I could, one more question.
Sure.
So are there any cities in South Metro Fire that have this same code with more children and not requiring sprinklers?
Not to my knowledge. I've been requested by a few jurisdictions to send them a copy of what we're proposing. It's in their legal department right now. They're supposed to get back to me before this hearing. I have a feeling they're waiting to see what happens to me.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you, and good morning.
Morning, Commissioner.
This is such an important thing because children are involved, and so we want to be real careful that we set up rules that that protect them. So I have 2 questions. One is this alarm company thing. How does that work? So if there is a fire or there's some carbon monoxide, who does the alarm go to? Does it go to South Metro or the appropriate fire department? Does it come to us? Where does that go?
It's a non-commercial, like a third-party monitoring system you could buy for your home. It's just another tool. If, for example, you have 12 children in the house, you have 3 people and the children have some disability of some kind, it's another step where they're trying to get children out, and at least the alarm is being set out.
So it goes to a company, and then the company calls the
Yes.
fire department or whatever?
Yes, Commissioner.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Second one, I don't know whether you can answer, but it's interesting to me, and that is the idea of raising the sprinkler, the number of kids in a home without sprinkling systems. I understand that they're really, really expensive, and I know that daycare is very expensive, and so there's an economy that has to be worked out. But I'm not totally comfortable. Like you say, there could be kids with disabilities and so on and so forth. So I'm a little, help me feel better about raising the limit of kids without having a sprinkler system. If it's just, and I use that word just kind of in
Sure.
quotes, but if it's just for monetary sake, or if there are some really good reasons to raise that cap, if the state requires it and South Metro requires it, how is it that we can feel comfortable in raising that cap?
Retrofitting a home is just 2 or 3 times more expensive than doing it while it's under construction. So that makes common sense. The majority of the child daycare centers are 6 children and not 12. So there are 2 licenses that are determined by the state whether the homes qualify, whether it's square footage of the home, whether it's the quality of the daycare, the amount of daycare people that are going to be involved. And remember that number all times includes the children that reside in the house today. There's people who have 3 children of their own. They count in that count. So, and it's on that. And this is just daycare. So the numbers, sometimes the children, there may be 12 children in there all day long. Sometimes there may be 5 children all day long, and they have 6 children that are before and after school for a few hours a day so the parents can get back and forth. So there's a great combination of that effort involved there. Providing 2 exits, clear exits, the right doorknobs, the right handles would help get these children out. And we're not talking about 10,000 square feet buildings that would require an exhaustive amount of effort to get children or people out of the house. The houses are usually smaller and have clear means of egress.
Follow up from Commissioner.
Yeah, if I could. So are these limits of 6 or 5 or 12 or whatever, are they based on anything, or are they based on best guess of how many kids need a sprinkler? I mean, I'm just wondering if this is a arbitrary number, or 6 is okay or 12 is okay because sometimes there's 6 and sometimes there's 12, and maybe sometimes there's even 13. Who knows? So how do we get these numbers?
The building code has been around. The ICC has been around for 20 years now, and they came up with these numbers. I wasn't at those hearings, so I don't really know how they invented these numbers, but the discrepancy between land use and state regulations and building codes, for years, for decades now, we've been just going, I don't know, and it's just time that we step up and start setting some of these goals, and I think encouraging some kind of forward movement. We are always at the place where you can change it. If something changes in the future, this doesn't look like it's working out, or you think children are at risk, we can always modify it. But I think I applaud you for taking a step forward and standing alone in this, actually, at this point, and trying to move this forward down the road. Any modification you want to make to it is up to you. This is that's your decision. My job is to bring you all the facts and figures as I see them and present this to you for your consideration.
Commissioner Holland next. I'm sorry. Did you have?
And then
Thank you, Commissioner Lodgy, and
okay,
we also
sorry.
have Mr. Hill.
Sorry, I just want to say that one of the things that gives me a little bit of confidence in this number is that you assembled that group together, and I want to applaud you for doing that. So everybody was at the table when you were coming up with this. So I just want to add that I thought that was really very, very smart of you.
I'm very blessed that I had my former director when I brought it to him, he encouraged me to bring it to you. My new director just picked up that banner and says, let's go for it, let's run with it. I myself had a child of disability. She had rheumatoid arthritis. She was 7. I was a single parent for a long time, and I know my heart is with these people, my burden, and I would never put a child at risk for any other reason. But I know that there's a need here, and I know that I can't tell you how many times we run into as a building department of homes that are unlicensed. And it's scary at times. They're building kitchens in the garages. They're doing things that do put the home and the children far more at risk than a sprinkler system.
Commissioner Holland, I'm going to ask Mr. Hill to comment real quickly because he may be able to answer a question that was asked by Commissioner Jackson, but then we'll get to your comment, okay? And I know, Commissioner Conti, you want to comment as well. So, Mr. Hill, can you comment?
Yes, thank you. I just, a little bit of clarification. The state will license these family daycare homes. It's a license for a family daycare in a residential home. Our building code, the International Building Code, regulates construction of buildings based on a use category of the building. So under our current building code, there's the use category for residential use, and including residential daycare use, is set at a limit of 5. Anything over 5 requires a different use category, and that requires more stringent building requirements. So, but the state doesn't really set a number of, you have to have sprinklers or some particular aspect in the residential in their licensings of the family daycare homes. But the state will license them for up to 12. There's this sort of disconnect, as Joe was talking about, between the state licensing of up to 12 and the standard building code requirement of limiting at 6 and requiring it. We sort of ran into this issue with, I believe someone came in for a building permit for a renovation or something. And that sort of shined the light on this. Well, wait a minute, you're licensed for up to 12 children, but you don't have sprinklers, you don't comply with our existing building code. Appendix M is an option to allow for a more stringent building requirement, short of sprinklers, to really just kind of fix that disconnect between the state licensing and the building code requirements. It's still, I gotta assume that it's safe and appropriate under Appendix M. That's been considered, and so.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. And I will just comment that I attended a number of meetings with Mr. Richards and our Human Services Department. And one of the other things I think it's important to note that the state, when they're licensing child daycare, one of the things that they look at is the age of the children and the number of adults that need to be present in the home to evacuate those children safely. That's something that I don't think that we can question. I think that that's part of their evaluation process, and it's something that they take very seriously. So, Commissioner Holland, Commissioner Conti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Richardson, I know that I'm familiar with some of the city codes, but not the breadth of our county building codes, and that is the requirements for egress in basements. Can you kind of elaborate on that?
Yes, sir. The Appendix M, if a child daycare center if they're going to take care of the children in the basement would have to have 2 exits. One would be the main exit that you're used to through the house. The other one would have to be an external exit outside the house via another staircase, or if it's a walkout basement, it has to have another egress out. What this amendment does do, it allows the backyard, it'll be fencing. There's some of the restrictions in there, if you've read the restrictions that are required, so that it's another safe area for the children to go in case of an emergency, rather than outside of the public walkway. So there are some restrictions in there that are pretty clear and straightforward.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Conti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wondering if we might be setting up people who are running these kind of daycares in a bit of a quandary or problem in inquiring the insurance that they might need, liability insurance, et cetera, since we're not on the same page with the fire department and we don't have that cooperative agreement and they're not supporting but will not oppose this kind of situation. Just wondering if that's going to put them in a difficult spot as they seek to get the kind of private liability insurance that would be probably required.
Yeah, I wouldn't know that, Commissioner. Bill, would you know about liability insurance? I don't know what the state requires for liability insurance. Or
I don't know.
My wheelhouse.
I know that there's specific inspection and ongoing inspection requirements and specific requirements that the state imposes on the family daycare homes in order to maintain and keep their license. And I don't know if that includes insurance or not. Relative to the fire codes and building codes and fire departments, under county law, a fire district can adopt a building code, but it requires essentially the consent and authority of the county board of commissioners to approve their adoption of that fire code. We have a number of fire districts within Arapahoe County who have adopted fire codes with the Board of Commissioners' consent as part of that, though I think in each case the board leaves it up to the fire district itself to enforce the fire code, so it's not a county enforcement obligation.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. And I will also note that one of my constituents is here to speak and is signed up to speak that actually is a home daycare provider. So that may be answered. We can ask that question when he's signed up to speak. So any other questions for staff at this time? Thank you, Mr. Richards. We appreciate all your hard work on this. I know there were a number of meetings that we attended with different jurisdictions all over the state. And also I want to recognize the work from Colorado Counties Incorporated, especially Allison Daly was instrumental in setting up a lot of these meetings. So I thank Allison for that.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right. This is a public hearing, and we are going to open up for public comment at this time. I have one name that signed up. Mr. Olson, would you please come forward? And I'll ask that you state your name and address for the record. We do have a 3-minute time limit, and there are some lights up here in front with yellow one will come on. But I'm going to be very lenient with you on the time frame, since I believe you're the only citizen signed up to speak. So while we don't want to go on and on and on about this, you've heard some of the questions, so if you can address insurance aspect and again state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Roger Olson, and my address is 5388 South Rome Circle in Aurora. And before I read my narrative, I can address the question regarding insurance. We are, as in-home providers, required to have liability insurance, and it's one of the requirements for licensure.
You can follow up with a question if you'd like.
And would you see the fact that the fire department has not adopted the building code and building department has not adopted the fire code and this kind of disconnect, yet we're trying to, have a cooperative working relationship, would you see that this could be an impediment in any means to people acquiring liability insurance?
I guess that's a possibility, but we haven't experienced anything like that personally, and we also do mentoring of new providers, and that has not been an issue to date, no. Sure.
So please proceed with your...
Thank you so much. Chair Baker and Arapahoe County Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Roger Olson, and in 2010, my wife Stephanie and I opened our family child care business, Kids Castle, currently a Colorado Shines Level 5. This is the highest child care rating level given by the state, and we are very proud to be the first family child care provider in Arapahoe County to achieve this level of excellence. We are also an early Head Start community partner with Early Learning Ventures with capacity for 8 early Head Start children. We are CDA credentialed and early childhood teacher qualified with the state of Colorado. Steph is Colorado Large Center Director qualified and NAFCC Observer credentialed, enabling her to educate peer providers, expanding and increasing industry quality. I am National Director credentialed. Kids Castle provides quality childcare with family affordability. We are an Arapahoe County CCAP provider supporting Colorado's lower income families. We partner with developmental pathways for on-site therapy sessions for those children with developmental delays. We mentor new providers to successfully open their own high-quality childcare programs. We serve on the Northwest Aurora Child Care Cooperative Steering Committee, focusing on increasing availability of care in areas considered child care deserts. Every child, in fact every human being, has a hierarchy of needs, and in order for learning to occur, the base level needs such as food and shelter must first be met. Among the most critical of these basic needs is safety. Safety at Kids Castle is our top priority. We are constantly assessing and monitoring safety in and around our home in order to keep this need fulfilled. This in turn instills trust and confidence on behalf of the children in our care, their families, and the community. There are numerous agencies which monitor our safety procedures, including the Department of Human Services, state licensing, Early Head Start, and the Federal Food Program. These agencies conduct random inspections, keeping us constantly vigilant for any safety issues. Coaches from the Arapahoe County Early Childhood Council and from Early Head Start are mandatory reporters for any observed safety issues. We also conduct and document frequent safety drills such as fire, reverse evacuation, tornado, and active shooter. We have designated evacuation sites, annually inspected fire extinguishers, wired-in smoke alarms, carbon monoxide detectors, and a third-party fire, carbon monoxide, and intrusion monitoring system. We also conduct and document daily safety checks of our premises, both indoor and outdoor. The point is, our children are safe. They are safe, comfortable, and confident, and they learn. With their basic needs met, we have set the stage for them to learn, grow, and thrive. Once our children reach kindergarten age, we schedule school visits with their future kindergarten teacher and her or his current classroom. Every teacher we have met has expressed gratitude and admiration for our program. They can't wait to have our kiddos in their classrooms. For over a year now, we've been struggling with the restrictions of the International Building Code. The code mandates homes to have fire suppression systems, which are unaffordable to family child care providers, and which I believe I have demonstrated to be unnecessary. We believe that the adoption of Appendix M of the International Residential Code by the county, with the additional provisions being proposed, is the best solution to this issue for all parties involved. We thank the Arapahoe County Building Manager, Joe Richards, and other county officials and personnel for their dedication to finding the best possible solution to the International Building Code issue, while ensuring the safety of our county's youngest citizens. Today's proposal will be significant for the family child care industry and ensure not only quality care, but safe child care. Arapahoe County families will have a choice to enroll their children in family child care, an industry that is essential in resolving Colorado's child care crisis. My wife Stephanie, myself, and our enrolled families and alumni at Kids Castle sincerely thank you.
Okay, I have some questions. I know that I think this is a special circumstance. I'm going to see if the board agrees with me that we could consider Mr. Olson a valid, almost like an expert witness in this regard. So I'm going to allow additional questions, and thank you for being here and thank you for answering these questions. I don't know who was first, but Commissioner Sharp.
Thank you, Mr. Olson, and I really appreciate, I know we need high quality child care, and really appreciate the steps that you and your wife have taken to provide that, and as well as for children that have disabilities. I think that is also a really important thing for our community, and thank you very much. My question is, in terms of maybe everybody that is going to do this and is going to qualify by the state is not going to achieve the levels that you have do you feel like that the basic approval and regulation by the state will provide adequate safety for children? And if you could talk about how many adults on average, I know as Commissioner Baker said, it varies by the age of the children, but on average, how many adults have to be present in the home with as many as 12 children?
Thank you, Commissioner Sharp. Yeah, I'd be happy to address those concerns. I do believe that the state does have adequate requirements in place for any provider, regardless if you're at our level, which is a level higher, considering we're an early head start. The state requires that not only ratios be maintained, but there's a certain space requirement also per child, and that is 35 square feet within the home, 75 square feet outside of the home for each child in care. And as far as the ratios are concerned, for every 8 children cared for, there needs to be 1 teacher present. And so for a 12 child license, that would be 2 teachers present. We have 3, but that's reflective of the early head start requirements.
Okay.
Commissioner Sharp.
This is so important because these are children as well as those that children with disabilities. So I appreciate your patience with us while we try to work through this. We want to make sure that when we change a regulation in the county that it certainly supports and will take care of children and adequately, and that they're in a safe environment. So I appreciate your patience with us while we work through this. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Holden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Olson, I want to commend you for committing your house and your wife and yourself to providing this needed service. Daycare is one of the most crucial aspects of, particularly for lower income people, to be able to advance in their employment opportunities and become good stewards of and citizens for this county. I think that from what I've been told in examining your program, I think you're doing a great job there. I think that we have to encourage entrepreneurs like yourself to enter into this program, mindful of the needs and requirements for life safety issues with those children. My particular concern, as I said earlier, is getting children out of basements effectively and efficiently through the requirements that we have set in the standards in our codes. My question is, in your situation, how many children do you have in your facility?
We have 12.
Okay.
So we are our maximum for
and how many employees?
We have 3.
3.
Myself, my wife, and 1 assistant.
Okay. And you've requested a waiver from that requirement?
I'm sorry? A waiver of?
Well, I guess have you complied with all the requirements with respect to the life and safety issues that you?
Yes, Commissioner, absolutely.
Okay, thank you
for clarifying.
I have one question about one of the phrases you used was child care deserts. And just from the meetings that we attended together with Mr. Richards and the state and different officials from different counties, is there a need for more home daycare providers?
Yes, Commissioner Baker, absolutely. It is very critical in our state that we use all means that we can to increase the amount and quality of the existing providers in the state. Child care deserts is a term that's applies to certain pockets of the state where there is a drastic need for more care in general, not just family child care, but also center-based child care. And so we get calls daily from people looking for care for their children, and our wait list now is well over 100 families, most of which will never get to call back because the children currently in the care will stay from age 0 through age 5 when they age out, and then the families who call, their children will already be aged out by then too. So it's quite a dilemma. I might mention too that one other thing that is required by the state is to have for babies, for infants, the number of infants in a family child care home is capped at 2.
Commissioner Conti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wondering, you've used the term, and we've heard it used also this morning about child care deserts. How many of those would you say exist within Arapahoe County?
I'm no expert on the matter. I can't say with any certainty, but the committee that I'm serving on for the Northwest Child Care Cooperative for Aurora has identified, I can't tell you the number, but there's more than 10 within just that small geographic area that they have identified as being in dire need of care.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yeah, I think this isn't really a question, so I apologize. But I just want to say that I think our regulations, it sounds like you're doing what will be required anyway, and I applaud you for that. And it's certainly, we kind of set minimum, so sounds like you're going over and above, and I really appreciate it. I think this, what we have before us today is for those who do not have those standards, and to make sure that the in-home providers have high standards that do keep our kids safe. And so I do appreciate your model, if you will, that you're a good model, and it sounds like you have a leadership in the daycare community, and I know that we all appreciate that. I just hope that we can use this model, this Appendix M, and your leadership to pave the way for excellence in child care, because it is so important. So thanks. Sorry for the speech, but.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Jackson. I appreciate that.
Any additional questions for Mr. Olson at this time? Thank you, Mr. Olson. We appreciate your testimony this morning. Even though I don't see any, I will ask if there's any other members of the public that would like to address the Board of County Commissioners on this time. If not, we have staff. We have Director Weimer from Public Works and Development. Brian, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. I do have an email from another provider that I received. If you would like me to read that into the record,
please. I
can certainly do so. It is from Kelly and Angie Stoll, and their address is 22659 East Ida Circle. The email reads, Brian, thank you for your reply. I wasn't sure how to make public comments on the website, so I thought I would send you our comments for the county commissioners. Unfortunately, with the short notice, we will not be able to attend the hearing in person, but please know we definitely support the change to the residential code to expand the limits and number of children allowed prior to sprinkler systems. The current zoning letter states we can only have 5 children in our home at a time. However, we are licensed for 6 children by the state of Colorado Human Services. We have lived in unincorporated Arapahoe County since moving to Colorado and have had a licensed daycare since 2009. We moved to a new area in our same neighborhood and received a new zoning letter. Having 6 children was not an issue when our original zoning letter was written. We do a preschool for 2.5 hours at a time in one room in our home. It is great hardship for us to have to let students go to be in compliance with the zoning code despite the state allowing more children. It is only a hardship for us, but for the parents of the children we care who have to find an alternative preschool for their children. Thank you for your support in remedying this matter so that the state and the local codes are the same. And that again is from Kelly and Angie Stoll.
Thank you, Mr. Weimer.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comments at this time? If not, I'm going to close the public comment period. And let me go ahead and just say that I support this amendment, this addition of recognizing Appendix M. I do believe that there are any number of unlicensed daycare providers out there that are currently watching kids in their home. A lot of these folks have no other option. They can't afford to go to a commercial daycare center. They are between a rock and a hard place. And these child care providers may know what the requirements are and not be seeking licensure through the state or even want the county to know that they're doing this because of our current building codes being a disincentive to becoming licensed. So I am going to support this, but I would ask for any other commissioner comments at this time. If not, I will go ahead and make a motion for approval. In the matter of amending the Arapahoe County Building Code to add Appendix M to the 2015 International Residential Building Code provisions of the County Building Code, to adopt specific building code requirements for family child care residential homes licensed for daycare for up to 12 children pursuant to a state license as set forth in the proposed resolution and board summary report, including the requirement for third-party service monitoring for smoke and carbon monoxide detection. And having read the proposed amendments and having received testimony at a duly noticed public hearing, I find myself in agreement with the staff proposal, and I move hereby to approve the resolution to amend the Arapahoe County Building Code to adopt and add Amendment M to the Arapahoe County Building Code.
Second.
I have a number of seconds. I'll say that Commissioner Conti reached the microphone first, so there's a motion by Commissioner Baker, seconded by Commissioner Conti. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Seeing none, that motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Olson. Thank you, Mr. Richards. We truly appreciate the hard work that went into this. This concludes our general business items. Are there any commissioner comments this morning? Mr. Holman.
This morning, our thoughts and prayers go to our Parisian friends and over the loss of the Notre Dame church. The history and legacy that edifice reflects is one that will remain in our hearts. And I just want to acknowledge that those of us here who recognize that fact and the Americans that support it will help in its restoration.
Thank you, Commissioner Holman. Commissioner Sharp.
I just want to acknowledge that this week there'll be a lot of discussion about and a lot of talk about the Columbine, the shooting Columbine, and just want to remember all of the young people who lost their lives there and the many that unfortunately have followed in school shootings, and recognizing that we do have a good program called Safe to Tell here in Colorado, and that encourages students to report concerns that they may have with other students. So just hopeful that can help students that are struggling with a lot of issues. So just recognizing the heartache from all those years ago that many people still are going through. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sharp. Any other comments? If not, we are adjourned. Good job, everyone.